Money has a way of turning family into strangers. I learned this truth while standing in my design studio, phone pressed against my ear, listening to my mother-in-law's accusations slice through the air like poison darts. "You and Ryan have been hiding money from me," Geri said, her voice trembling with what I initially mistook for hurt. $40,000. Don't try to deny it. I set down my coffee, watching it ripple in the ceramic mug. The morning sun streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows suddenly felt too bright, too exposing. "What are you talking about?" "I saw the transfer records, the business account." Her words came faster now, sharper. "You think I'm stupid, that I wouldn't notice?" My name is Mila, and until that moment I thought I had everything under control. My interior design business was finally taking off. My marriage to Ryan was solid, and even my relationship with his difficult mother had settled into a manageable routine of occasional dinners and polite phone calls. "Geri, there must be some mistake. Ryan handles most of the—" "Oh, of course. Hide behind my son. You've always been good at that, haven't you?" I pressed my fingers against my temple, fighting the headache building there. "I just got back from meeting clients in Singapore. Can we discuss this when you've had time to cover your tracks?" She laughed, a brittle sound that made my skin crawl. "I trusted you both. My own son." The studio door opened and Sophie, my best friend and business partner, walked in carrying fabric samples. She froze when she saw my face. "Geri, I need to call you back. We'll sort this out, I promise. Don't you dare hang up on—" I ended the call, letting my phone clatter onto the desk. Sophie raised an eyebrow, setting down the samples. "That bad?" "She thinks we're hiding money from her. $40,000. I ran my hands through my hair, messing up the careful styling I'd done for our client meeting later. "Where is she even getting these numbers?" "Have you called Ryan?" "About to." I picked up my phone again, noticing my hands were shaking. 3 rings, then his voice, warm and familiar, came through. "Hey, beautiful. How was the flight?" "Your mother just accused us of stealing $40,000 from her." Silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. Then, "What?" "She mentioned transfer records, the business account." I trailed off, watching Sophie pretend not to listen while organizing swatches. "Ryan, what's going on?" He sighed and my stomach dropped. "It's not what you think. Remember that big payment we got from the hotel project? The one in Dubai?" "Yeah, what about it?" "Mom saw the deposit notification because she was helping me with some paperwork while you were away. She must have misunderstood. Why was she anywhere near our business accounts?" Another pause. "She's been helping with the books, just basic stuff. You know how overwhelmed I've been since leaving my job to help you." The headache exploded behind my eyes. "You gave your mother access to our finances without telling me?" "Not access, exactly. She just—" "I have to go. We'll talk about this at home." I hung up before he could respond, turning to find Sophie watching me with concern. "Want me to reschedule the Morrison meeting?" I shook my head, straightening my blazer. "No, I need normal right now. I need to focus on work and pretend my mother-in-law isn't trying to destroy everything I've built." Sophie touched my arm. "Mila, maybe she's just confused. Geri's been struggling since her art gallery closed." "This isn't confusion," I said, remembering the calculated tone in Geri's voice, the way she'd been watching me at family dinners lately, like a predator sizing up prey. "This is something else. And I'm going to find out what she's really after, even if it tears this family apart." The words hung in the air. A promise and a threat rolled into one. Outside, the city hummed with life, oblivious to the war brewing in our quiet suburban corner. I picked up my coffee, now cold, and took a sip. It tasted bitter, like the beginning of something I couldn't take back. The dinner table felt like a minefield. I watched Geri delicately cut into her salmon, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light with each precise movement. The same bracelet she'd complained she couldn't afford last month, right before asking Ryan for another small loan. "The Morrison project must be quite lucrative," she said, dabbing her lips with the napkin. I noticed the deposit while organizing those files. Ryan shifted in his chair beside me. "Mom, we talked about this. That money's already allocated for—" "Of course it is." Geri's smile didn't reach her eyes. Everything's always allocated when it comes to family, isn't it? I set down my fork, the clink against fine china cutting through the tension. The business has expenses, Geri. Suppliers, contractors, payroll. And yet you can afford that lovely vacation to Singapore. That was a business trip, I said, feeling my jaw tighten. I met with 3 potential clients at the Marina Bay Sands. Very resourceful. She turned to Ryan. Remember when you were little, and I'd skip meals to buy your school supplies? Ryan's face flushed. Mom, please. I'm just making conversation. She reached for her wine glass, nearly empty again. Though I did hope my own son would help when my gallery started struggling. Instead, he abandoned his stable job to work for, well. The unfinished sentence hung in the air like smoke. I pushed back my chair. I should check on dessert. In the kitchen, I gripped the counter's edge, counting breaths. The sound of Ryan's voice drifted in, too low to make out words. Then Geri's laugh, sharp as broken glass. Everything okay? Ryan appeared in the doorway, worry lines creasing his forehead. Your mother's wearing a $5,000 bracelet while guilt-tripping you about school supplies from 20 years ago. He ran a hand through his hair. She's just going through a rough patch. The gallery closed 6 months ago, Ryan. How long are we supposed to keep funding her rough patch? She's family. She's manipulating you. What do you want me to do? Let her lose her house? I pulled the apple tart from the oven, the sweetness of caramelized fruit doing nothing to mask the bitterness in my mouth. I want you to see what she's doing. Every time we succeed, she finds a way to make you feel guilty about it. Every time we set boundaries, she crosses them and makes us the villains. You don't understand. I understand that she had access to our business accounts without my knowledge. The words came out harder than intended. I understand that she's using that information to drive a wedge between us. That's not fair. She was trying to help. By questioning our clients, implying I'm wasting company money? That's not help, Ryan. That's sabotage. The dining room floor creaked. We both turned to find Geri standing in the doorway, her expression a perfect mask of concern. I couldn't help overhearing. She said softly, I had no idea you felt this way, Mila. Though I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. You've always seen me as a burden. That's not what It's fine. She waved a dismissive hand, the bracelet sparkling. I'll call a cab. Clearly, I'm not welcome here. Mom, wait. Ryan started after her, but she was already gathering her things. I just hope you know what you're doing, she said to Ryan, her voice trembling. The way money changes people. Well, your father learned that lesson too late. She swept out, leaving silence in her wake. Ryan stood frozen, his face pale. I'd never seen him look so lost. What did she mean about your father? Nothing. He grabbed his keys. I should drive her home. Ryan, we'll talk later. We'll talk. The front door closed with a quiet click that felt louder than a slam. I stood in the kitchen, surrounded by half-eaten dinner and cooling dessert, realizing that Geri had won this round. She'd walked away looking like the victim, leaving chaos in her wake. My phone buzzed. A text from Sophie. How's dinner going? I stared at the message, thinking about the files I'd found hidden in Ryan's desk yesterday. Bank statements, loan applications, a letter from Geri's lawyer about power of attorney. Call me, I typed back. I need your help with something. The kitchen clock ticked steadily, counting down to decisions I couldn't take back. Geri wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd forgotten one thing. I hadn't built a successful business by playing nice. And I was done being the perfect daughter-in-law. The credit card statement trembled in my hands. $3,000 at Cartier, $5,000 at Bergdorf's, another $2,000 at some art gallery in Manhattan. All charged to our business account, all authorized by Ryan's signature. Sophie leaned over my shoulder, whistling softly. That's quite a shopping spree for someone who can't afford her property taxes. Look at the dates. I spread the statements across my desk. Every charge happened while I was in Singapore. Have you talked to Ryan? The office door opened before I could answer. Ryan stood there, his tie loosened, looking exhausted. Mila, we need to... He stopped, seeing the papers scattered across my desk. What are you doing? Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing. I held up the Cartier receipt. Want to explain this? Sophie quietly slipped out, closing the door behind her. Ryan's face drained of color. Mom needed help with some expenses. $10,000 in luxury purchases is not expenses, it's theft. She said she'd pay it back. The gallery insurance finally came through and… Stop lying. My voice cracked. I called Tom this morning. Ryan froze. What? Your brother? Remember him? Turns out he had no idea about Mom's financial troubles. In fact, he told me something interesting about the gallery insurance. I stood up, my legs shaking. There was no insurance, Ryan. The gallery wasn't even in her name anymore. She sold it last year. That's impossible. She wouldn't… She did. And you've been covering for her, using our business accounts like your personal ATM. He sank into a chair, running his hands through his hair. You don't understand. After Dad left… Don't. I slapped another statement down. This isn't about your father. This is about you and Geri stealing from our company. I was trying to protect her. By destroying everything we built? The words tasted like acid. We have suppliers waiting for payment, projects on hold, and your mother's out there buying designer handbags with money that isn't hers. I'll fix it. I'll talk to her. A knock interrupted us. Sophie poked her head in, her expression grim. Mila, the Morrison clients are here. They're asking about the delay in their project. Ryan stood up. I'll handle it. No. I gathered the statements into a folder. You've handled enough. Go home, Ryan. We'll discuss this later. Mila, please. Later. He left, shoulders slumped. I straightened my blazer, took 3 deep breaths, and walked into the conference room with my professional smile firmly in place. The Morrisons were our biggest clients yet. I couldn't let them see how close everything was to falling apart. 2 hours later, I sat in my car outside Geri's house, staring at the manicured lawn and elegant facade. Through the window, I could see her new artwork hanging in the living room, pieces she'd claimed she had to sell months ago. My phone buzzed. A text from Tom. Found more documents. You need to see these. Another buzz. Ryan, where are you? We need to talk. And then, like some cosmic joke, an email notification, a charge alert from our business account. Geri had just spent another $1,000 at a spa. I got out of the car, my heels crunching on the gravel driveway. The spare key was still under the ceramic frog, the one I'd given her last Christmas. The irony wasn't lost on me. Inside, Geri was arranging flowers in a crystal vase, another recent purchase, no doubt. She turned, surprise flickering across her face before settling into that practiced smile. Mila, darling, what a lovely surprise. Is it? I set the folder on her pristine coffee table. As surprising as these? She didn't even glance at the statements. I assume Ryan told you about our arrangement. Arrangement? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Is that what we're calling fraud now? Don't be dramatic. She moved to her bar cart. New, crystal, probably worth more than most people's monthly salary. Would you like a drink? We can discuss this civilly. Like you discussed selling the gallery, or lying about the insurance, or manipulating your son into stealing from his own company. Her hand paused on the crystal decanter. For a moment, something dark crossed her face. Something that made me understand why Ryan still jumped to protect her after all these years. You've done well for yourself, Mila. Surely you can spare some comfort for family. We're not family. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Geri? I've frozen all the accounts. Every last one. Let's see how comfortable you are now. Her mask finally cracked. You can't… Watch me. I walked out, her protests fading behind me. In my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed Sophie's number. Get me every financial record we have, and call our lawyer. I started the engine, watching Geri's silhouette pace behind her expensive curtains. It's time to show her what real family loyalty looks like. The email from Tom arrived at 3 a.m. I'd been staring at design sketches for hours, unable to sleep, when my phone lit up with his message. Found Dad's old storage unit. You need to see this. Attached were photos of documents, loan agreements, threatening letters from creditors, and a handwritten note from Geri dated 15 years ago. My hands shook as I read it. If you expose this, I'll make sure the boys never speak to you again. The bedroom door creaked. Ryan stood there, his shadow stretching across the floor. Come to bed. Did you know about the gambling? He stiffened. What? Your father's gambling. The debts Geri covered up. I turned the laptop screen toward him. The money she borrowed from loan sharks to keep your family's reputation intact. Ryan crossed the room in 3 strides, scanning the documents. His face went through a series of emotions: shock, denial, understanding, and finally, something darker. Where did you get these? Tom found them. Seems your mother's been playing the victim card for decades. I clicked through more photos. She didn't lose the gallery because of the economy. She lost it paying off your father's debts. That's impossible. Dad left because Geri drove him away? That's what she told you, right? The bitter laugh escaped before I could stop it. Looks like she drove him to the casinos first. Ryan sank into the chair beside me. This doesn't make sense. Why would she? Control. I closed the laptop. She controlled the narrative, controlled your loyalty, and now she's trying to control our business the same way. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken accusations. Finally, Ryan spoke, his voice barely a whisper. The Morrison Project. What about it? Mom didn't just take money, He swallowed hard. She contacted them directly, told them we were having financial troubles, suggested they might want to reconsider their contract. The room tilted. When? Last week. I found out today. That's why I came to the office, but then you found the credit card statements. I stood up, needing to move, to breathe, to think. Our biggest client. She tried to sabotage our biggest client. I can fix it. I'll talk to them. Like you fixed the credit cards, the unauthorized transfers, the lies about the gallery insurance? Each question felt like a knife twisting deeper. When does it end, Ryan? She's still my mother, and I'm your wife. This is our business, our future. I pressed my palms against the cool window glass, watching the city lights blur. We have to stop her. What are you suggesting? The reflection in the window showed a woman I barely recognized. Harder, colder, someone capable of making impossible choices. Tom sent more than just photos. He found evidence of tax fraud, forged signatures, misappropriated funds from the gallery sale. Mila, no. One phone call to the IRS. You can't. Ryan stood behind me, his reflection overlapping mine. It would destroy her. She's destroying us. I spun around. The Morrison contract is worth $500,000. If we lose it because of her games, we'll find another client. That's not the point. My voice cracked. She won't stop, Ryan. She'll keep taking and lying and manipulating until there's nothing left. Just like she did with your father. He flinched. That's different. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, history's repeating itself. And I refuse to be another casualty of Geri's survival tactics. My phone buzzed. Another email from Tom. More documents, more secrets, more ammunition. Ryan watched me pick it up, his face a mask of resignation. Whatever you're planning, he said quietly. Remember, she's not the only one who'll get hurt. I thought about the Morrison meeting tomorrow, about Geri's smug smile at dinner, about the years of manipulation finally coming to light. Sometimes protection looks like destruction, I said, opening the email. Your mother taught me that. Ryan walked out without another word. In the silence that followed, I began composing 2 emails, one to our lawyer and one to Geri. The first would start the process of protecting our assets. The second contained 3 words that would shatter her carefully constructed world. I know everything. Outside, the city stirred with pre-dawn activity, oblivious to the war I'd just declared. I pressed send on both emails, feeling something shift inside me. A line crossed, a point of no return. Geri had taught me well. Perhaps too well. Now it was time to show her exactly what her lessons had created. The private investigator's photos spread across my desk like playing cards in a losing hand. Geri at high-end boutiques. Geri at exclusive restaurants. Geri meeting with our competitors. 3 different design firms in the past week alone. She's been busy. Sophie said, examining a photo of Geri leaving our biggest supplier's office. Think she's trying to sabotage our contracts? My phone buzzed. Another text from Ryan. Where are you? We need to talk. I ignored it, focusing on the timeline I'd constructed. Look at the dates. Every meeting happened after I froze the accounts. Desperate people do desperate things. No. I picked up a photo of Geri smiling over lunch with James Morrison's wife. This isn't desperation, this is calculated. The office door opened. Tom walked in carrying a thick manila envelope. Found something else. You're not going to like it. He spread out more documents, bank statements, loan applications, property deeds. My hands froze over a familiar signature. Not Geri's this time. Ryan's. That's impossible, I whispered. These are dated before we even started the business. 5 years ago, Tom confirmed. When Mom still had the gallery, Ryan took out loans in his name, transferred the money to her account. Sophie leaned closer. How much? 200,000. None of it was repaid. The room tilted slightly. I gripped the edge of my desk, feeling the smooth wood ground me. That's why he left his corporate job. Not to help me, but because his credit was destroyed. Mila, Sophie started, but my phone buzzed again, this time a text from an unknown number. Meeting tomorrow, 2 p.m., Riverside Cafe. Come alone, sa, the G. Don't go, Tom said immediately. She's cornered, that makes her dangerous. I stood up, gathering the photos. She's always been dangerous. We just didn't see it. What are you going to do? The answer came with surprising clarity. I'm going to take everything from her, just like she tried to do to me. Sophie touched my arm. Think about Ryan. Ryan made his choice 5 years ago. I pulled away, reaching for my coat. Now I'm making mine. The drive home felt surreal. Streetlights blurred past as I rehearsed tomorrow's confrontation. But when I pulled into our driveway, all my carefully planned words evaporated. Ryan sat on the front steps, holding a familiar leather portfolio, the one containing our original business plan, the dreams we'd built together. You weren't at the Morrison meeting, he said quietly. Neither were you. They canceled. Said they're going with another firm. He looked up, his face haunted. Mom's firm. The world stopped for a moment. What? She's partnering with Carlton Design, using our client list, our supplier connections. He swallowed hard. Everything she learned while helping with the books. A laugh bubbled up, harsh, borderline hysterical. Of course she is. And let me guess, she used your old loans as leverage? His silence was answer enough. When were you going to tell me, Ryan? After she destroyed everything we built? Or after she drained every account we had? I was trying to protect you. By lying? By letting her manipulate us both? I yanked the portfolio from his hands. You want to protect something? Start with your spine. Mila, please. I'm meeting her tomorrow. I walked past him toward the house. Don't wait up. What are you planning? I paused at the door, thinking of the documents Tom found. The photos, the years of calculated destruction hidden behind maternal concern. I'm going to show her what real protection looks like. Inside, I pulled out my laptop and began composing emails. To our lawyer, our bank, our remaining clients. Each message was another nail in Geri's coffin, another step toward the revenge she'd taught me to crave. My phone buzzed one last time. Another text from the unknown number. Bring the documents from the storage unit, all of them, or Ryan's past becomes very public. I smiled, thinking of the additional files Tom hadn't shown them yet, the ones that would burn both Geri and her precious gallery to the ground. She wanted to play with fire? Fine. I'd give her an inferno. The laptop screen glowed in the darkness, illuminating the business plan Ryan had so carefully preserved. Tomorrow, I'd have to choose between saving our marriage and saving myself. But tonight, I had work to do. After all, revenge is a dish best served with meticulous documentation. The Riverside Cafe buzzed with lunchtime chatter, but the corner booth where Geri sat might as well have been in a vacuum. She wore her usual pearls, perfectly coiffed hair gleaming under the soft lighting. A queen holding court. I was starting to think you wouldn't come, she said, gesturing to the empty chair across from her. I remained standing. Let's skip the pleasantries. I have the documents you wanted. Sit, dear. People are staring. They weren't, but I sat anyway, placing my briefcase between us like a shield. Geri sipped her wine, leaving a perfect lipstick print on the glass. The Morrison contract was just the beginning, she said. Carlton Design is quite interested in my insights about your business practices. You mean the practices you learned while stealing from us? Her smile didn't waver. Such ugly accusations. I prefer to think of it as protecting my investment. After all, I did fund Ryan's original loans. With money you stole from his father. Is that what Tom told you? She laughed softly. My dear, you really should verify your sources better. She slid a folder across the table. Inside were more documents, bank statements, letters, photographs, but these weren't the ones Tom had found. These showed something much worse. Your husband's quite talented at forgery, Geri said. Always has been. Even as a child signing his father's name on report cards. My hands trembled as I read. The loans weren't just in Ryan's name. They were created by him. The gallery's collapse, Geri's financial troubles, even Tom's supposed evidence, all fabricated. Ryan wouldn't— Check the dates, Geri interrupted. Compare them to your company's founding. Ask yourself why a successful corporate executive would really leave his career to manage his wife's books. The room tilted. I grabbed the table's edge, feeling the solid wood ground me. You're lying. Am I? She pulled out her phone, played a recording. Ryan's voice clear as day, planning with Geri how to manipulate the accounts, how to make me suspect her instead of him. Why? The word felt like glass in my throat. Because you were becoming too powerful, too independent. He needed a way to control the business without arousing suspicion. She reached across the table, patted my hand. Men can be so predictable in their insecurities. I yanked my hand away. And you helped him destroy everything I built? Oh no, dear, I exposed him. Those credit card charges, the supplier meetings, all carefully documented evidence of his fraud. Her smile turned predatory. The question is, what are you going to do about it? My phone buzzed. Sophie. Emergency at the office. Morrison's lawyers are here. Then Tom. Just found something else. Call me ASAP. Finally, Ryan. Where are you? The police are at our house. Geri watched the messages arrive, each buzz making me flinch. Tick-tock, dear. Your empire's crumbling. I stood up so quickly my chair toppled. You orchestrated all of this. Today, the meetings, the timing. I learned from the best. You taught me how to plan revenge, remember? She raised her wine glass in a mock toast. Though I did add my own maternal touch. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. My phone kept buzzing. Sophie, Tom, Ryan, our lawyer, all demanding immediate attention. But I couldn't move. Couldn't think past the realization that I'd been playing checkers while Geri played chess. Why now? I managed. Because you were getting sloppy. Letting emotion cloud your judgment. She stood, gathering her designer bag. A real revenge artist knows when to strike. And nothing sweeter than watching someone's own tactics destroy them. She paused beside me, her perfume suffocating. Oh, and dear, the police aren't just at your house. They're at your office, too. Something about fraudulent contracts and embezzled funds, all in your name, of course. Ryan was very thorough with the paperwork. I watched her leave, her heels clicking against the floor like a countdown. My phone buzzed one final time, an email notification. Our company accounts were frozen, all of them. Not by me this time, but by federal investigators. The documents on the table blurred as tears threatened. I'd thought I was dismantling Geri's world, but she'd been dismantling mine all along, and I'd handed her every tool she needed to do it. The sirens grew closer. Through the cafe window, I saw police cars turning onto the street. My phone kept buzzing. Each notification another nail in my coffin. I had maybe 5 minutes before they reached me. 5 minutes to decide face the music or run. The police station's interrogation room smelled like stale coffee and desperation. I sat across from Detective Martinez, her case files spread between us like a map of my destruction. Mrs. Chen, We have statements from 17 clients claiming fraudulent contracts. She slid photographs across the table, familiar faces, all connected to Geri somehow. Plus, evidence of systematic embezzlement dating back 3 years. My lawyer touched my arm, warning me to stay silent, but the door opened before I could respond. Ryan walked in, flanked by another detective. "Tell them," he said, his voice breaking. "Tell them what really happened." I stared at my husband, the man I thought I knew, the partner I'd trusted with everything. "Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing." Detective Martinez leaned forward. "Mr. Chen has agreed to testify about your involvement in—" My involvement? The laugh that escaped sounded foreign, almost hysterical. "Show them the real documents, Ryan. The ones with your signature, not my forged ones." His face paled. "Mila, don't—" Or should we call Tom? Ask him about the storage unit? The loans you took out in your father's name? The detective's pen stopped moving. Ryan's hands clenched into fists. "You're making things worse," he whispered. "Worse than framing your wife for fraud? Worse than letting your mother destroy everything we built?" The door opened again. This time, Geri swept in, immaculate as always. "I believe I can clarify things." My lawyer started to object, but Geri pulled out a USB drive. "Everything you need is here. Bank records, original documents, security footage from the office." She smiled at Ryan, "Including the night you accessed the company's servers to plant false evidence." Ryan lunged forward. I promised to protect my son." Geri cut him off. "And that's exactly what I'm doing." She turned to me. "You were right about one thing, dear. I am manipulative, but not for the reasons you thought." Detective Martinez plugged in the drive. Security footage played on the wall screen. Ryan in our office late at night, methodically altering documents. Another clip showed him meeting with Carlton Design weeks before I'd even suspected anything. "Why?" The word felt like ash in my mouth. "Because you were suffocating him," Geri said softly. "Your success, your ambition. He couldn't compete, so he tried to take control the only way he knew how. By destroying me? By becoming necessary to you again." She sat down, her designer suit pristine against the institutional chairs. I had to let it play out. Let him make his choices, let you both learn the true cost of revenge. Ryan slumped against the wall. "Mom, please." "The gallery was never in trouble," she continued. "The loans were real, but they were Ryan's, not your father's. I paid them off years ago. Everything else, the credit cards, the contracts, the evidence Tom found, it was all carefully orchestrated. By him." The detective's pen scratched across paper, recording every word. My lawyer sat straighter, sensing the shift in power. "And you?" I asked Geri. "Why expose him now?" "Because revenge consumed you both. You were so focused on destroying each other, you never saw the real lesson." She stood, straightening her pearls. "Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting people face the consequences of their actions." Ryan was led away in handcuffs, his shoulders bowed under the weight of exposure. I watched him go, feeling nothing but hollow exhaustion. "The charges against you will be dropped," Detective Martinez said, gathering her files. "Though the civil suits from your clients—" "Will be handled," Geri interrupted. "I have resources. Consider it compensation for my part in this education." Later, standing in the station's parking lot, I finally asked the question burning in my throat. "Was any of it real? Any of what we built? Geri paused by her car. "The business was real. Your talent is real, but the rest?" She shook her head. "You both chose revenge over love. The only difference is you learned from it." She drove away, leaving me alone with the ruins of my life and a single bitter truth. In the end, we'd all been playing each other's games. The only winner was the one who'd known the rules all along. My phone buzzed. Sophie, asking if I was okay. I stared at the message, thinking about choices and consequences, about revenge and redemption. "No," I typed back, "but I will be." The sun set behind the police station, painting the sky the color of bruises. Tomorrow I'd start rebuilding, but tonight I'd let myself mourn the cost of winning a game I never should have played. The gallery opening buzzed with the kind of energy only scandal and redemption could generate. My newest design project, transforming Geri's old gallery space into a contemporary art center, had drawn quite a crowd, including, I noticed with a twist in my gut, Geri herself. She stood before a massive abstract painting, her signature pearls replaced by a simple silver chain. The past 6 months had aged her, or maybe just stripped away her carefully maintained facade. "Bold choice," she said as I approached, nodding toward the artwork, using his prison paintings for the opening exhibit. Ryan's signature sprawled across the canvas corner, the dark strokes revealing something raw and honest I'd never seen in our marriage. Tom thought it would help with his rehabilitation program. Always the practical one, aren't you? She sipped her champagne, eyes never leaving the painting. Though I suspect there's another reason you chose his work. Sometimes the best revenge is giving people exactly what they want. I gestured to the plaque beside the painting. He wanted recognition. Now he has it, as the artist who funded his fraud with his wife's success. A ghost of her old smile flickered across her face. "You learned well." I had an excellent teacher. The crowd shifted around us, conversations buzzing with discussions of redemption and second chances. Nobody mentioned the real story. How Ryan's conviction had shocked our social circle. How Geri's carefully orchestrated exposure had destroyed her own standing along with his. They didn't need to. The evidence hung on every wall. "The Morrison contract," Geri said suddenly. "You knew I'd tell Ryan about the recording, didn't you? That's why you let me think I was winning. I learned from you that the best manipulations are the ones people choose themselves." I watched Sophie across the room, expertly handling potential investors. Just like you knew Ryan would eventually self-destruct if you gave him enough rope. "We're more alike than you think." "That's what scares me." Tom appeared at my elbow, tablet in hand. "Final numbers from the silent auction. Ryan's pieces sold out." "All proceeds to the Victim Restitution Fund?" I confirmed. He nodded, then noticed his mother. The temperature seemed to drop several degrees. "The house sold," he told her, his tone professionally distant. "The trust will be dissolved by Monday." Geri's hand trembled slightly as she set down her glass. "So this is really it? The final act of dismantling everything I built?" "You dismantled it yourself," I corrected softly. "I just made sure everyone could see the ruins clearly." She turned to leave, then paused. "Was any of it worth it? The revenge, the victories, the losses?" I thought about the nights spent rebuilding my business, about Sophie's unwavering support, about Tom's quiet determination to make things right, about the complex web of love and betrayal that had brought us here. "Ask me again when I figure out if I've become you or defeated you." She left without another word, disappearing into the night like a ghost of past battles. Tom squeezed my shoulder before following, their complicated relationship its own story of redemption still unfolding. I moved through the gallery, past Ryan's raw confessions in paint, past the subtle reminders I'd woven into the design. A chandelier that matched Geri's old one, wallpaper in the exact shade of our first office. Little echoes of everything we'd destroyed in our quest to destroy each other. The final painting stopped me cold. It showed 3 figures locked in an endless dance, their faces both loving and cruel. Ryan's last work before starting his sentence. He'd titled it Family Ties. Sophie appeared beside me, her presence grounding as always. "Ready to close up?" "Almost." I studied the painting, seeing us all reflected in its twisted shapes. Geri, Ryan, myself, each believing we were the hero of our own story. Do you think we ever really win these kinds of battles? Maybe the winning is in choosing when to stop fighting. I touched the frame lightly, feeling the texture of revenge and redemption under my fingers. Tomorrow I'd wake up and keep building something new from the ashes of our mutual destruction. But tonight, standing before the evidence of our shared darkness, I finally understood Geri's greatest lesson. Sometimes victory looks exactly like surrender. The gallery lights dimmed, leaving only the soft glow of spotlights on the paintings. In their shadows, I could almost see the ghosts of who we used to be, dancing their eternal dance of love and betrayal, never quite winning, never quite losing, forever caught in the echo of retribution.